This is The Growl with your host, William.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the moon. Try to catch me howling at the
Hey, thank you for turning your ear to the wind and listening to the rambling growls of this week. I named this episode Independence. We just finished up the 4th of July celebration weekend. As it turns out, listening to the news, I guess Atlanta and certain other cities has actually been a very violent weekend. We've even to the point of having some children that have died due to gunshot wounds. Things are pretty intense. State of the Union, Independence Day. You know, we were supposed to celebrate our independence. Now there's just, we've got all sorts of different groups all vying for, I guess, competing for power, trying to make themselves known, trying to, whatever they are trying to say, they want people to listen, doing that via some through peaceful means, others through violent means, and a lot of that truth lies somewhere in between those two extremes. So I was looking up the Declaration of Independence, and there were some interesting things that I was going to give kind of, my opinion, my perception on as to where it relates to where we're at today. Where they were when they, wrote it and signed it, and kind of that evolution, where things have gotten and where we're at now. So I'm going to go ahead and read just a little bit of, I'll probably read just certain sections and then talk about them. So the first one here, you have, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume, among the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the natures God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Okay, kind of fancy introduction, basically saying, we're tired of England's crap, and we don't believe that the king is not above, all people, in my opinion. But this next section is really kind of what caught my interest, and we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So the first thing, which is obvious and probably has been debated over since the time this was written, all the way up until now, that all men are created equal. Okay, so there's obviously, where did the slaves fall into play? When they were talking and discussing about all men created equal, is that truly a racist statement? Because being racist is the belief that through no other means than genetics or DNA, that your race is superior to another. That is really kind of truly what that definition is. You could be 300 pounds overweight, diabetes, lung cancer, blah, blah, blah. But with your race, you would still be superior to another. And that does also kind of get into, and I'm not going to ramble on about this too much, but race. I'm not sure where they had determined the different races in the world. I think they have determined there are five actual races within our species, which kind of brings to point something I'd said in another episode, that the human race we're like birds, many different colors, many different types of feathers, but we are still one species. So let's move on from that. So all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Now, the fact that they put their creator, not the creator, that I found interesting. So that means to me, when they wrote their creator, were they referring to all men, or were they referring to an individual, kind of their creator? Who's the creator? Who's the one? And it's different, right? You have your Buddhists, Jewish, Muslim. They all essentially this universal power, this universal being. So we'll kind of let that go for now. With certain unalienable rights. Now, one thing I do know, my father, being a retired minister, I have some knowledge of the Bible and the Christian religion, is that I have never seen in any religious or spiritual text that God, Allah, whatever name you choose to use, that this being ever gave anybody any rights to anything. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, that is what we believe should happen. We believe that all men are created equal, that, their creator, unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we should not interfere with that, right? That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now that makes sense to me. We have lost that. That we have lost, in my humble opinion. Over the years, we have lost control of our government. Now, whether that's through people just, my vote doesn't matter, I don't care. So the people that are voting, the people that are passionate about the things they want to get done, or they would hope their representatives and their government will do, they're the ones voting. Now, I can say this. Anybody that says their vote doesn't matter, who is our president right now? Trump. That really, that's kind of in your face on that one. I mean, that's your vote does matter. Trump is our president, and he may very well be our president for the next 4 years, which, if that's the case, that's the case. But that's based on largely us. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So the governed, that's us. Your vote matters. You need to get out there. It does matter. Now, next here, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So it gave us the right to be able to change our government so that if it became tyrannical, destructive of these ends, that we as the people have the right to alter or abolish it. So we're looking at what's going on now. We have people, they're removing monuments. You have, governors that to some are abusing their authorities and powers within their states by keeping lockdowns going, creating what people view as unnecessary rules and regulations. I know Aspen, Colorado, if you're caught like not wearing a mask, $250 fine. If you're caught again, it's like something like $2,600 and a possibility of up to, I think it's 1 year in jail. And this wasn't voted on by the people in that county or in the state of Colorado. This was simply the city council. Oh, we think this is best for everybody. And if you violate this, well, then this is the consequence. Now, maybe the people of Aspen and the people within that county agreed. Maybe there was a vote. I don't know. I don't live in Colorado currently. So, but yeah, I mean, it's these kind of things. And then you have the extreme where you now have Minneapolis, where their local and county governments are discussing defunding the police to satisfy the population, to satisfy those residents and people of those counties and that kind of jurisdiction. So we have these extremes, but bottom line, it comes down to us, right? I mean, this was part of that independence. We separated ourselves. We became independent of a king we had taxation without representation. There were other things that were going on with our forefathers that they wanted independence. They stepped away from that. And of course they fought for it and we got it. 4th of July, Independence Day. Now, the prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. Now, so let's look at this generationally. We have our younger generations. We have certain populations within black communities that are very tired of what they believe are injustices. They want to change the government. They want to change these things. Now, younger people, our younger generations, which makes sense that, yes, okay, let's change things. Why do we have these monuments? Is this a part of our future? Why do we want these anymore? Let's get rid of them. I mean, we've even got to the absurd where Elmer Fudd no longer has his rifle, and there, certain cartoons they're trying to change. In a sense, they're trying to abolish or erase history instead of embracing that history. I'm going to bring up Germany, World War II. A lot of people, they're like, well, and it's arguments on both sides where there are some people that are like, well, we should have the right to keep, the Confederate flag because, Germany, they kept Auschwitz and they kept these buildings and certain monuments of the Nazi Party. Well, they did that to remind themselves and the world what those atrocities were so that they never happen again. It's very, very, adamant. You don't see German citizens going into Auschwitz going, yes, this was a great, part of our history. This was, this is a part of Germany. No, It was, this horrific event in our history should never be repeated. And this is a reminder of that very, very dark time. So over here now, Confederate flag, and I did an episode on this where I have no problem with the removal of monuments, and I have no problem with the removal of the Confederate flag. Now, most of that is based on, you know what, the South lost. Why embrace, if you're trying to come together as one nation, why continue to embrace that separatism, right? So, is what is going on now, this government long established, should not be changed for light or transient causes. So are we dealing with a large population that is just pissing and moaning about where we're at and what's going on, and they're just upset? You can be upset with your government, you can be upset with the authority, but does that necessarily give you the right to change it? I don't think people want Antifa creating and running a government. I don't believe we ultimately want a communist government. I don't think we want a socialist government on the majority. However, could be wrong. There could be a very large population that is in support of, now, mind you, I might get a little flack for this, but in my humble opinion, the Democrats have a socialist, communist agenda based on what I've seen. They want to give us free medical, free dental, free vision. They want to give us free education. And that's great, right? Except the fact that they will then tax us 70 to 80% of our income, basically creating a welfare nation. They're going to build these huge block apartment complexes where people just live. It's, yeah, sure, it's free. Well, it's not free. It's part of your taxes. And, you know, we have found that a lot of your medical facilities and personnel, that drops once government comes in and tries to take that over. And it's not because you don't have good doctors and nurses and medical personnel. It's that the facilities are now run by a bureaucracy that argues constantly over where pennies should go and where dollars should be spent, instead of focusing truly on the people that they are governing. Anyway, my opinion, my humble opinion on that, I am ever such more a capitalist than I ever will be a communist. So that's my little dig there. Now, so again, we, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. So you look at my generation and the generation before me, and there are a lot of us that are like, well, the government, you're never going to put a chip in me, and you're not going to, you're not going to control me, and you're not going to take my guns away, and you're not going to do this, and you're not going to do that. Well, we've become accustomed to the way things are run. It's kind of the status quo. I grew up with James Bond movies, the Cold War, and nothing really coming about. It was just kind of, we were just there. We had Reagan, trickle-down economics. We had, the space shuttle. The hippie, generations were kind of fading off. Free love turned into greed money. And it really wasn't until after I joined the service, and then we had Desert Shield, Desert Storm. We stepped into the 90s, and then, things kind of, they went from there. But ultimately, for me growing up, it was just our status quo. The 80s was just kind of boring. I think the biggest major thing was the Berlin Wall came down, but that really didn't affect us. It didn't change us. The Soviet Union falling, but that's another topic, another time, another episode. So it's okay. We have the younger generation, we have a population that is tired of this, that is tired of that status quo. Hence, like the chips, right? I mean, it could be that, my great-grandson may think the coolest thing in the world is to go and get that chip put in, and then all of a sudden, gets the retinal adjustment scanner, so his phone is heads-up display right in front of his face, so he can play his mobile games. Who knows, right? So we have a future. We have a generation willing to embrace that future. So do we change things? Do we get this revolution really, truly moving? Now, so let me continue with the Declaration of Independence. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. Okay, and then it goes, then it kind of steps into the history of the present king of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of any absolute tyranny over these states. So, and at this point, then it's really just kind of like, hey, England, get out of our face, blah, 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 blah. So, but again, it's okay. When a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. Which brings me to another debatable, and I may get some flack for this as well, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right up in New York. Now, youngest congresswoman to date, right, that we have up there, her approval rating is 21%. Is her platform one that I agree with? No, not necessarily. Does she have that political education and experience that other politicians that have been in office for hundreds of years, does she have that? No. But that's what I love about her. That's what I think is what this country needs. You hear her speak. Now, for those of us that have, again, status quo, politicians, this is what they do. This is who they represent, and this is what's going on. And here she comes. Now, does she make mistakes when she talks about our history? Yes, she does. Does she make mistakes in the things that she stands for and the things that she's moving towards? Yes. But what is amazing is that ignorance, and I will even dare to say that innocence of youth. She is a bright star in a very dark and dim political night. We have been so used to politicians that, well, this is just the way it works. This is the way it runs. This is why Trump got voted into office. A lot of people wanted a change so desperately, they were willing to really vote in anyone beyond Hillary Clinton, beyond what they viewed as a government that was not doing anything anymore for the people. That was kind of the beginning of the revolution. Now, has he done good things? Has he done bad things? There is a combination of both. There are things that he has done that have come up that actually have benefited this country. There are other things he has done that you're like, my God, the man is an idiot. What was he even thinking? Why did he even open his mouth? Or more so, why did he even tweet? But the same thing with Alexandria. Her approval rating is 21%. But that's not her fault. That is my generation and the generations before me and older than me that are threatened by this revolutionary politician. I appreciate that ignorance. I appreciate that youth. I appreciate that innocence of being able to look forward. And hopefully she doesn't get so caught up in trying to prove us wrong by condemning our history and that she remains focused on the future, that others will follow. Others will step in and be like, wow, she did it. This is amazing. I'm going to do that too. Let's change the world. See, that's what I want to see. And if throwing off such government is maybe not necessarily the revolution we had through violent means, but through the ability to teach our children that the future is yours. Get the education you need, discover, and by what I mean education is life. Observe, see these things, be passionate about what you want, and then move forward with it, and move forward with people that support those means. Okay, right now, I believe we are in a revolution. We have the pandemic, we have Black Lives Matter, we have Antifa, we have, of course, KKK, all of these groups that are vying for power and they're trying to accomplish their own agendas and their own goals. We as an American nation, as people, we really need to step up and know that, okay, our vote does matter. These things do matter. We don't need to get an AR-15. I mean, for me, it would be hard enough to, be in my walker with an AR-15 going to D.C., right? So there's a lot of our older generation that we just kind of need to let us eventually fade away. But it's up to you guys. It's up to the youth. It's up to you, right? You're listening to this and you're young and you're bold and you want this future. Then go get it. Right? Let's go get it. Let's turn this country into what it originally was. Let's claim independence again. Let's make 4th of July mean something again. Let's create this new world. Our forefathers knew it. They knew that this was, hey, let's do this. And I think we lost that passion over the years because up to my generation, status quo. This is just the way it is, and as long as I'm not getting more taxes taken out, and I'm making my money, and we're in a grind. So, if removing monuments, if getting rid of the flag, if trying to change things, even as idiotic as changing cartoons, if that's really what it's going to take, then let's do it. Let's move forward. I would much rather this revolution be as peaceful as it possibly can. May there might be a violent end to this revolution. There might be. Who knows? We haven't gotten there yet. So let's look at today. Let's look at what we can do today, especially in an election year, and see where we go. But remember these foundations. I dare you, go read the Declaration of Independence. Formulate your opinion of it. Excuse me. Formulate your own opinion. Look at your future. Look at the future that you want for your children. And go from there and make your decisions based on that. How you vote, how you live, where you want to get the education for you and your kids, what you want to do to make this country great again. That, to me, is making America great again. Let's move into the future. If that's chips, if that's technocrats, if the younger generation wants a communist nation, they will learn from their mistakes. Chances are I probably won't be around or alive to see that, or if I do, I'll be too old, way too old to do anything about it. But it's up to you guys. It's up to you. Let's make this country great again. Okay, that's not a Trump statement. That is to the youth. This is your world now. Let's get your Declaration of Independence. Anyway, enough rambling. You go do the damn thing. I'm going to go do the damn thing, and the damn thing will get done. I'm your host, William. It was good growling at you. If you want to hear more growl, get growly with it. By all means, please subscribe. I'm on all popular podcast locations. You can also reach me to rage, debate, growl back at thegrowl@gmail.com. That's thegrowl, 2 W's, @gmail.com. Growling at you later.
hope you find me. I'll be back home soon. When the sun rises, when the sun